Hi, Jessica. Welcome.
Hi, Keely. How are you?
Good, good to see you.
You too.
So I welcome you today, and usually I start with how we know each other.
Mhm.
So just to share, we've actually known each other for quite a bit of time now,
Yeah.
almost a decade.
10 years almost. Yeah.
And
Ish.
we met as well through California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists, the San
hmm
Francisco chapter.
That's right.
We were both
And
volunteering in various different ways.
yep, exactly. You were the head of the ship or the captain of the ship
I
at the
was.
time.
I was, I was. But you were in charge of some very big pieces of part of our organization as well, right?
Social events.
Well, that's how people network. I mean, it's actually the
We
thing that,
need it.
yeah, it's the thing that people always look forward to is like, how about that dinner or that happy hour or
Yeah,
whatever?
totally.
That was a big important piece.
Mhm. Yeah,
And then, yeah, we've been in book clubs together. We've been friends for a while now.
we have. And
So
I think it's really cool that you're doing this. I love it.
thanks, Jessica, and thanks for taking a chance on it and being
Of
willing
course.
to
But of
chat
course.
with me. So to start out, maybe just sharing how you became a therapist. What was your journey?
Yeah. Well, okay. So my question is how or why?
How or why? Well, that's a great question. I'm more interested a little bit in the why, but the how is fair enough, fair game. So
I was like, she probably knows how. Like like I
I'm a,
got the
yeah,
3,000 hours.
yeah.
And
Well, yeah, of course, of course. But I'm
but
a Simon. Do you know Simon Sinek?
I
His
don't
work.
know. Mm-mm.
Simon Sinek. He's great. I'm hopefully saying his name right, but his book is Start with Why, and he's all about making sure you're clear on what your why is, why you're doing
Yes,
something.
perfect. Um, I would say, and probably most of my life, I have always been curious about people and their motivations and actions and all of this. And um, it only grew as I got older. And even by the time I went to high school, I was choosing to do different projects on mental health related stuff instead of, like if I took a health class, I did that instead of, I don't know, diabetes or whatever. I was choosing, I was really drawn to that. And um, it was endlessly fascinating to me. So I'm one of those people who actually like at 17, when I applied for college, chose the psychology
Oh,
major and like
wow.
went on through and just like did the thing and didn't really have too many diversions
Uh-huh. You
into
knew
other
yourself while young.
areas. I didn't even know what else I would do. I was like, I love this and connecting with people, and I didn't think I would get bored, which, as you know, it's not boring.
This is true.
So, so yeah, and you're never done learning. So, it's a good fit in that way.
hmm And Jessica, I think you're licensed in multiple states, yeah?
I'm licensed in 5 states
Oh my
currently.
gosh, five?
I
That's
am.
intense.
I am. I'm. First and foremost, licensed in California.
Mhm.
Briefly lived in Oregon, and so I got my license there. And being from New York and I mean, there's a lot of folks you probably know in the Bay that like maybe I don't say they go back and forth, but like for job related stuff, a lot of people moving to New York, moving back to California. And having a bit of a community there. I have my New York license. And then twice, very, very kindly, I think, for long term consistent clients who wanted to continue. Um, I got I was going to say Las Vegas, Nevada, and New Jersey, because actually
Wow.
a fair amount of people who, work in New York live in New Jersey. And
Uh-huh.
so it's
Sure.
kind of a thing. So, yep, right now, California, Oregon, New York, Nevada, and New Jersey. And I was like, no more. That's
That's
enough.
it. Yeah. Well, maybe offline I'll pick your brain a little bit about how you went
Sure,
through that
absolutely.
process because I'm
Yep,
sure I've
yep,
definitely sent a lot of people to New York, for example, and been like, there are people I know, but I'm not licensed there. That's
yep.
one of the things people don't realize is that it depends on what state the person is in,
Yes,
on whether or not we can practice there.
right. Yeah, I think that's true for doctors and things like that as well, or the various professions,
Mhm.
and
They get a little
it's
bit
a
more
whole thing.
flexibility, I think, than we do,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
we have
I mean,
almost
fortunately.
none. almost none.
Zero flexibility.
Um, so you got to go through the process.
Yeah, for sure. So this kind of ties into some part of what you were answering there, but what do you like about therapy? It was a little bit of your why, I think, but is there
Yeah,
other pieces of that?
yeah. I mean, I know, as I'm sure you do too, lots of people in lots of jobs. And I don't know that many people who feel maybe like as good about what they're doing. There are definitely people that feel good about what they're
Sure.
doing in the world, but I hear a lot of people who are sort of, I don't know, I guess, defeated by some, business related stuff or whatever. But it feels really good. I feel like it's a nice contribution, both on an individual level and just on a like working to destigmatize mental health and therapy in general level, even just playing like a small part. Um, and again, like also never getting bored. And I am very lucky and that, the whole time I've done this, I've really enjoyed the people that I've worked with client wise. And, we're kind of isolated in a lot of ways once you're in private practice, but got to connect, when you put some effort into it, you get to connect with, you
For sure.
know, some colleagues that you feel you have some things in common with as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's really important for as clinicians to have a community of other clinicians because it is
Yeah.
isolating.
Yeah, yeah. Hence, the professional organization locally
Yeah,
and like how helpful that could be.
for sure. For sure.
Mhm.
Okay, so what are some of your favorite modalities or kind of ways in which you practice?
Full disclosure, this is always my least favorite question because
Fair.
even since grad school, and they're like, pick your favorite, and I'm like, I kind of see myself as pretty integrative because almost like a lot of different modalities are tools in a toolbox that may work for some people and not work for others. And I try to really be individual focused and client centered in that way. With that being said, the humanistic, unconditional positive regard, in my opinion, applies to everyone.
Mhm.
Um, and even systems, which in this case, of course, like, as MFTs were trained on family systems and things like that. In recent years, there's been a lot of like the macro system stuff coming up and how people feel impacted by that.
Uh,
Um, you know, based on gender, based on sexual orientation, based on race, various things and, messages they've internalized and like can't not acknowledge those things. And then just, love attachment, definitely use some CBT. And I really think psychoeducation is actually important too.
It's huge.
Yeah, and helping people understand like, oh, like here's what's going on. Here's why you're working with me on this thing. Here's why we're doing it this way. For a lot of people, that's really helpful, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you're saying too, because I feel similarly that people don't fit into a box. And sometimes the modalities can really kind of make you feel like there's like a box of this is
Yeah,
how
yeah,
you
yeah,
practice
yeah.
versus kind of meeting people where they're at and understanding a little bit more of who they are and what they need rather than just one size fits all.
Yes, totally.
Mhm.
Agree.
Yep. Okay, so that said, what does a typical session look like? Is it kind of organic or is it very
Very, very. Unless we have, which does happen. If we've said like, okay, then it makes sense to follow up on such and such next time, or if there is a homework assignment, which again works for some people and does not work for other people at all. Um, then we'll follow up on that. But even so, I will ask them to if there's something they prioritize above what we were even going to follow up on that day because I don't know what's come up over the week or the 2 weeks since I've seen them and want them to be, you know, driving in terms of that. And then I do have some clients who work a lot better if they send me, a couple of agenda items before rather than kind of feeling on the spot when they come into session. And so then I'll have an idea of where they might want to start. But,
Mhm.
that's for whoever it works for.
Uh-huh. Again, meeting people where they're at and what they
Yeah.
need. Yep,
Yeah, exactly.
it's great. Okay, let's see. Is there anything that surprises you about therapy? Every once in a while I get surprised. What
Yeah.
surprises?
Yeah. I mean, occasionally you'll get like a particular specific issue you haven't seen or worked with before. I mean, not that you're shocked it exists, but just, It'll be new to you. But a lot of times, how do I say that I'm surprised? But there's these like threads that seem to go through almost everyone, like these human threads, of course, of wanting to be like loved and accepted. And I try to like normalize that a lot because regardless of people's specific circumstances that might feel really different, um, you know, feeling accepted, feeling anxiety, wanting to feel good enough, all of these things in different ways are they run through almost everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the human thread, and it's like the
Yeah,
things that come up around it might be a little different or a different
right,
kind of
right,
presentation, but we're all
right.
human.
Exactly. And there is a lot, the core things I think we have a lot in common. The details can be very different.
Fair, fair. Yes, 100%. Okay, so what do you wish people knew or understood about therapy, given that?
I hate using this word, but I want to say like it's normal. It's you know, you're not crazy, like all the stereotypical stigmatized beliefs about mental health, um, which, you know, are just not, I mean, many of the people I work with, I don't know how I want to say it, but just they're high functioning individuals, and regardless of your functioning, it's there to support you, just like a medical doctor, um, and, use that resource if you're able to. And I know that sometimes that's a privilege as well. Um, but yeah, it's here to help. There's nothing, it doesn't say anything bad about you. And just there's a lot of people that know that, but there's a lot of people that still are digesting that, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things that's it's like that baseline what you're talking about even before about it's just about human experience and kind of demystifying that and letting people know that they're not alone and this is common
Yes,
or that
yes,
other people experience this can really make an impact for sure.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Do you have a favorite tool or something that you like to share with people?
Um, so I'm actually a big semantics person, so sometimes I'll be like, here's why I like this word instead of that word, or if you say I love you, but you really pissed me off yesterday, it's sort of like
We
don't
do
even
these.
say, they don't even hear the I love you. It's
Yeah.
just like, I love you and I'm upset about what happened yesterday. I always try to be like, oh, hey, let's think about some of these things semantically, which to other people might not matter very much, but they're just concrete tools that,
Yeah, I actually think that's really valid and important. I do find myself sharing that same thing, right? It's an and, not an
yeah,
either or, because
yes,
people, it's like the Gottman, like how you start a conversation is really going to impact how.
totally. Exactly. Setting the tone,
Yep. Yep.
soft startup, all these
Self-startup,
things.
exactly.
Yep.
A lot of Gottman good terms. All right. So those were some of the therapy questions. Are you familiar with the whole Stephen Colbert questionnaire? Have you
Yes. Somewhat familiar. I've seen it enough times.
Yeah, fair. So this was kind of my like
I love
version
it.
of it.
Yeah,
I didn't want to take the same questions just because, maybe they're copper. I don't know, whatever.
sure.
Who knows? But making it a
Personalized.
little bit,
Yeah.
yeah, more therapy-ish, or in my mind, I guess. So
Perfect.
to that end, we're gonna start with an easy one. What is making you happy these days?
What is making me happy? Well, I am going to be getting married this year, and with that, the kind of the way that we're doing it, there's a lot of travel involved. We're going to a few different places to meet our people where they're at, so not everyone has to travel. Um, and yeah, I am a big travel person. That's one of my favorite, you know, hobbies, I guess. You can't be doing it every weekend necessarily, but it's my thing. It's my way I create life balance. So
Yeah, you're a very avid traveler from
yes, yeah, 40 countries on 40, and um,
awesome.
hopefully, yeah, I'm gonna get another one this year. So
Love it. Love it. Okay, what's your favorite app?
actually, right now, my favorite app is the New York Times cooking app because
All
I
right.
treated myself to like the special, it was like a 3-month special,
Subscription.
and now I'm hooked because it's just like add like create grocery list, like it's so
Oh,
easy and
that's
it's so good and it's like it's so easy to make all your little folders and so it's almost like I'm not looking anywhere else right now. I'm just doing my groceries from there and like my Trader Joe's pre-made
fair.
things. But yeah, that's my current. It changes depending on like the month, but
Is there a favorite dish that you've made so far from that?
yeah, there's actually these really good they're Thai meatballs. They're like chicken, like ground chicken, but it's like a really it's just I don't even know what to say other than it's not something I've ever had before. It was a little bit labor intensive, but it's like, it goes over rice, there's lots of sauce as, and like it's not a curry dish, but similar to that. I sent it to tons of people I know. I'm like, make this. It's so good. I'll send it to you also.
Yeah, please do. Please do. We love making Thai food. We actually went to Thailand and made and did like a
Oh,
cooking class
cooking?
in Thailand.
I
Yeah,
did it too. It was
you did the
you
same.
have to. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's great.
yeah, it's great. Okay, beach or mountains?
Beach.
I knew you were gonna
I
say
not only do I love warm weather, but lately, the recent year or two when I've been to places that have altitude, I've actually gotten pretty sick.
that. Oh yeah.
I don't know if that's getting older and things changing, but like driving up to Tahoe has been fun, or in the past few years had been fine. But I went to Denver and I was just like, I feel like I was crawling through molasses to get, and it impacts my body. So in addition to being in Southern California and during the nicest months, the beach is like an every weekend thing because it's just such a treat. And yeah,
Nice, nice warm beaches, not like the
yes,
northern.
yes,
That's
warmer.
for sure. Um, okay, what is one thing that movies never get right?
I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen one that got there. You mean therapy related?
Well, no, anything. And if people have had
Oh,
different, but I agree with where you're going.
yeah. I was gonna say that's just where my brain went immediately when it comes to never getting therapy right. That's true. It's always, I mean, I want to say always. I know that's one of the semantics I don't like people to use, but I'm trying to think of a time when I've seen something where it was like an accurate representation. And even, I really love the show Shrinking. I don't know if
Oh, I
you've
love that
watched
show
that.
too. Yes, it's one
It's
of the few that I'll watch. Yeah.
it's because it's entertaining and it's silly, but it's also like, it has some really good interpersonal dynamics and things. But obviously, you're not going to do a lot of those things, almost any of the things
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
do in that show. Like, oh, my client moved in with me because they need a place to stay. It's like, no,
Full relationship lunch, right?
no, yeah, like just none of that. Or like, leave your husband or I'm quitting on you. I'm not going to be your therapist. Um,
Things you want to say but never do.
Exactly. Sometimes you really want to say that, or sometimes you wish you could help someone in a different way, but we're
Sure.
not able to do that, and with good reason.
Yeah.
Um, so I would love to see something a little more accurate, but of course, maybe for a show that would be less entertaining to people because it's like, I see you this hour, and then we are not a part of each other's lives until next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And that's to protect them. I mean,
of
that's
course,
like
yeah,
boundaries. I've run into clients like who were working retail or something, and I've run into them when they like I didn't realize they were at the store or something, and people have a shock reaction of like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing my therapist outside, and you're like, oh,
yes,
acknowledge, I'm just gonna pretend like we don't know each other, and but I'm also in my head like, oh my gosh, I don't want them to be worried about me
of course.
invading their space.
Pre COVID in San Francisco, being in person, a lot of people will choose a therapist's office because it's convenient to them, whether they're home or their work or whatever. And so I would always have that conversation with people ahead of time. If we run into each other, I will not acknowledge you unless you acknowledge me. I will not ignore you if you do acknowledge me. I
Happy
will
to
say
have a
hello.
conversation.
But just so they feel safe that and like they're aware that they don't need to panic. It almost reminds me of a little bit seeing a teacher, if you ever saw like your teacher at the grocery store or something when you were little, not that they're not allowed to talk to you, but that it was so bizarre. Like, what are you doing here? You belong in school, only in school.
Yep.
You're a regular person. What?
Yep. Struggle is real for sure.
Mhm.
I still, because I do in person still, and I still give that spiel.
Yeah.
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 See you. I
Yeah.
will acknowledge you. If you acknowledge me, happy to have a conversation with you, but I
Yes, right.
pretend like I
You're gonna
don't like you
respect.
unless you decide you want to.
Yeah. And knowing they take the lead and they're the empowered
Yeah,
one.
it should be. Okay, what's the best way to relax?
Best way to relax. Great question. Um, I mean, sometimes trash TV. Um,
You have favorites?
I mean, this is terrible, and like looking back at this show, it's like wouldn't be allowed now. There's lots of like toxic things, but they started replaying The Millionaire Matchmaker. I don't know if you ever used to watch that from back in the day, but it's like interesting the dating dynamics and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
or just some like good old House Hunters, which
Hmm.
is less trashy, but just like, ooh, love that. Yeah, I love looking at houses and things like that, people's houses. But I am also, I've increased my yoga practice like on a more practical, I don't know if it's more practical, but it does certainly help. I find that a great relaxer, both physically and mentally.
Hmm. Fair. Okay, this is a good question, I think, for you. Dream trip location.
Mm. I mean, I feel very lucky that I have gotten to go to a lot of my dream trip locations. I will say I would like to almost redo something that I did when I was in my 20s, which is the whole like summer in Europe, bop around to a bunch of different places, which I did when I was like younger. And of course, you're like staying in hostels and you have all the energy in the world to be like, changing locations every 2 days. But that was so neat to be able to do that. And in terms of like new places, uh, we're going to go to French Polynesia this year. And I'm really excited. I always like to check out new beaches and new, tropical locales. That's also very relaxing to me, having that kind of climate and environment,
Mhm.
which of course you can't be in all the time. But it is, I'm really looking forward to that. I haven't ever been. So
Nice.
um,
I
to
haven't
kind of,
either. Are you talking about like some of those ones that like are on the water with like
yes, yeah, that's the special treat
beautiful?
this year. A couple of nights. It's not affordable to do for an entire trip, but like a couple of nights in an overwater
Totally.
bungalow in Bora Bora, I think.
Love it. Love it.
So that's the
You'll have
treat.
to tell
Saving
me.
up.
It's definitely on my list. So
I
you'll
will.
tell me
I
how
will.
that one is. Okay, what advice would you give your younger self?
Related to therapy or
Anything.
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 Um, I remember, I don't know if you remember, we read this book in book club, the therapist book club. I mean, you probably don't remember everything we ever did. Um, but Come As You Are, which that particular book is focused on sexuality. But there was one thing she said that I think applies to a lot of life, and I really like it. And she said, unless you're hurting yourself physically or emotionally, it's normal. Like worrying so much about what's normal, unless this isn't working for you. And a lot of times, of course, like we could be hurting other people, and that's not going to work for us if we're behaving a certain way or something. But just like stop worrying so much about what's normal because we're all very again the details of our lives are all very different and what works for us and to help us feel confident or loved or accepted is different, like what the needs are. And that's okay. We don't have to be like, how many days is normal to call this person back? Like, what's acceptable or to text them back? Or, how soon should I be getting promoted? Or that means something bad about me. And it's like,
The kind of
well,
overthinking
yeah, yeah,
self-critical because you're kind of
right. Yeah, and assuming that other people are judging you because of that, when of course, in fact, most people are very much similarly anxious about themselves.
spotlight effect, right? I'm
Yes,
constantly telling people
yes,
about the spotlight effect of like
yes,
people always think they're in
yeah,
the spotlight and you're just not.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
At least. I'm sure there's
Hmm.
some people that are, but yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Out of the four seasons, and I think I'm actually gonna know which one this is for you, which is your favorite?
summer, forever and
Yeah.
always. I know. I always actually get really sad when it starts to be fall, which for a lot of people is ironic because I feel like fall is an incredibly popular
Yeah.
um, season for a lot of people. But if I could be wearing like, you know, light, bright clothes all year and, having the warm weather, that is ideal for me. Also because, again, in Southern California, it's pretty comfortable even in the warm. I know that like maybe if you grew up somewhere else, the heat would be so oppressive that would be less fun. Um, but for here, I'm into it.
They say that San Diego, like, because I grew up in San Diego, right? And they say the weather forecasters are some of the most accurate because they say that it's just sunny and beautiful today. A little
Maybe
bit
a
of
little
fog,
overcast in the morning on the ocean, and then it'll burn off
yeah.
by lunch.
Yep, totally, totally.
So yeah.
Okay. Oh, what would be the worst power to have? This, yeah, superpower.
Oh my gosh, worst superpower.
Yeah.
Um, it's like you'd have to even make some up. I almost want to say, I know a lot of people would like to read people's minds, but I think that could also be very concerning.
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
like very loud, very distracting, and also, people need to have things for themselves and process it before they decide what they would like to share. Um,
Lots of thoughts going through there. They're not all gems.
no, not all exactly. I know mine aren't,
Yeah.
so that would be something. I'm sure I've heard people say they would like to have that. But
I'm with you though. I think that would be mine because
yeah,
that's a lot.
yeah, it would be a lot.
Okay, what would be your spirit animal?
Ooh, spirit animal. Um, Sometimes I think about this and I'm like, I don't know, what would it be? I mean, I don't know, like I kind of like dolphins in terms of I'm a big water person, love the water, and I think they seem to be very social and like connecting, whether it be with other dolphins or people. So I guess that's like the first thing that comes to my mind. Not that I'm a dolphin expert, but that's my what I glean about dolphins.
Sure, totally. No, they are. I think like even off the California coast, maybe it was some other coast, but there was like pods of like thousands of
Yeah,
dolphins. Did you see that? It was like recent.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this year even, earlier in the year when I was at the beach a little bit more, or last year, I guess, see them like kind of frequently, and I never saw thousands, but like several,
Yeah,
you know,
sure. Because they
um,
travel in groups. They're
and
very
groups. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really, yeah, it's such a neat thing to be able to see just walking around on your Saturday.
yeah, sure. Yeah. Yep. I feel that way about the whales. I see them
Yeah, you
being
you do see them
all the time
just
in
walking around.
Florida. Yeah, it's like right there all the time. Couple times, months and months of the season, all of a sudden you're looking out and there's just like spouts everywhere. It's, you know,
That's so neat.
connection to the ocean, like you were saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, final question. When you look back at your life,
Mhm.
what would you like to be able to say?
I would like to be able to say that I both supported others and myself as much as possible, and got, as much as I could out of this life. And for me, that also means acknowledging you can't do everything. That's not possible. But that, you got a good, um, you know, you got out there and experienced life and experienced the world, and oftentimes that means accepting more ups and downs than um, people who might play it a little bit safer. But that you accept that and embrace that, and that's human life. And that, maybe I can help some other folks with things like that too.
Wonderful answer. I
Yeah.
love it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for
That's
taking the
awesome.
time. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, thank you for taking a chance on this and being willing to
Sure.
share.
Sure. I can't wait to check out more of the episodes as well.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. That's
To it. Thank you,
all
Keely.
right. I'll see.
Bye.
Bye, Jessica.